Okay, let's get right into it. To really understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict today, you kind of have to trace it back. It's this century-long struggle, right? Two deep competing national dreams for the same piece of land.
That's absolutely the core of it. You have these two fundamental narratives running in parallel, often clashing.
Right.
For Jewish people, it's a narrative shaped by seeking security, self-determination in an ancient homeland, heavily influenced by centuries of persecution, obviously culminating in the Holocaust.
And the Palestinian side?
It's a narrative of continuous presence, an indigenous population experiencing, well, decades of dispossession, displacement, and life under military rule. Two very different realities.
And it started with a real power imbalance, didn't it? Back around, say, 1917.
Oh, massively. The population was overwhelmingly Arab Palestinians, maybe 9/10. Jewish people were less than a tenth.
Yet even then, these two national movements were already forming and kind of heading towards collision. You had Zionism largely coming from Europe, very proactive.
And Palestinian nationalism, more reactive, developing in response to Zionism, and importantly to external forces.
Speaking of external forces, Britain, World War I seems like a crucial turning point.
It absolutely was. Britain really stirred the pot during the war. They made a series of promises basically to secure their own wartime goals that were fundamentally contradictory.
Okay, so contradictory promises, like what specifically?
Well, first you have the Hussein McMahon correspondence in 1915-16. This basically seemed to promise Sharif Hussein of Mecca an independent Arab state, including Palestine, if the Arabs revolted against the Ottoman Empire.
Okay, so promise one, Arab independence.
Right. But then, in secret, comes the Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1916. Britain and France basically carve up the Ottoman territories between themselves. Direct contradiction.
So much for Arab independence.
Exactly. And then the third layer, the really public one, is the Balfour Declaration in 1917.
The one promising a national home for the Jewish people.
Precisely. It supported that idea.
Okay.
But here's the critical part. It was incredibly vague about the rights of the existing non-Jewish communities.
Yeah.
It mentioned protecting their civil and religious rights, but crucially, not their political rights or national aspirations.
That omission feels deliberate, like it set the stage for conflict.
Many historians argue it did. It created this inherent tension from the start.
Which brings us, I suppose, inevitably to 1948, a year with two very different names.
Yes. For Israelis, it's the War of Independence, a desperate fight for survival, the birth of their state.
Yeah.
For Palestinians, it's the Nakba, the catastrophe.
The catastrophe, referring to the mass displacement.
Yes, over 700,000 Palestinians became refugees. They lost their homes, their land. And the core argument is still debated. Did they leave voluntarily, fleeing the fighting, as the traditional Israeli narrative suggested? Or was it, as the Palestinian narrative and many newer historians argue, a result of deliberate expulsion, intimidation, and massacres by Zionist militias? Events like Deir Yassin certainly spread fear.
So a foundational trauma viewed completely differently, and the result on the ground.
Israel controlled about 78% of Mandate Palestine, and the Palestinian refugee crisis became a permanent fixture of the conflict.
Then comes 1967, the Six-Day War. How did that shift things?
Fundamentally. Before 67, it was largely about the 48 borders and refugees. After 67, Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, the Sinai, and Golan Heights. It became a conflict about occupation.
Millions of Palestinians under military rule.
Exactly. And crucially, Israel immediately began establishing settlements in these occupied territories.
Yeah.
The West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem.
The famous facts on the ground.
Which the international community, by and large, views as illegal under international law.
Citing the Forced Geneva Convention, right? Article 49.
Yes. Article 49 prohibits an occupying power transferring its own population into the territory it occupies. These settlements make a viable, contiguous Palestinian state incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to envision physically.
Okay, fast forward again. The Oslo Accords in the early 90s. Hopes were high, but it didn't work out. Why?
A key flaw, many argue, was that Oslo deferred the hardest issues, the so-called final status issues.
Jerusalem, refugees, settlements, borders.
All of them. They kicked the can down the road. And in the meantime, distrust festered, settlements expanded, violence continued. The process sort of collapsed under the weight of those unresolved core problems.
Which leaves us with those same core issues today, seemingly intractable.
Pretty much. You still have Jerusalem claimed by both sides as their capital, but Israel's annexation of East Jerusalem isn't recognized internationally.
And the refugee question.
The Palestinian demand for a right of return, often based on UN Resolution 194, versus Israel's demographic concerns the fear that a large-scale return would end its identity as a Jewish state. It's an existential issue for both sides.
Wow. So, stepping back, looking at this whole arc, contradictory promises, war, displacement, occupation, failed peace attempts.
Wow.
What's the takeaway?
I think it shows the conflict isn't just about land. It's about these deeply embedded, competing narratives of history, legitimacy, security, and survival, often seen as zero-sum.
So, where does that leave things?
Well, the historical path suggests that purely military solutions, walls, segregation, they haven't brought lasting peace. Perhaps the path forward, however difficult, has to involve some form of mutual recognition.
Acknowledging the other side's narrative, their history, their connection to the land.
Something like that. Acknowledging the shared history, even the painful parts. It takes immense courage. But, as someone once said, ultimately, weapons and walls alone cannot create peace. You need something more fundamental.